justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Climate justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Kim Coble. I'm the Executive Director for Maryland League of Conservation Voters, and it's an honor to kick us off today. And I want to make a couple points before I introduce quite a lineup. The Maryland General Assembly hasn't passed comprehensive, significant climate bills for the last couple of years. This is the year that that's going to change. Election year, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to put Maryland at the top of being a national leader in climate change. The legislative package that we're considering here today has 4 key components to it. There are many aspects of it, but the key things are that it is driving this state to be at net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045 with some target dates ahead of it. It's requiring large commercial and residential buildings to reduce their emissions and achieve net zero emissions by 2040. It's expanding the state's electric vehicle fleet, and it's incorporating some key elements to address environmental climate justice. We know that Maryland voters, who will be having an opinion this fall, strongly support this legislation. In fact, Maryland LCV was involved in a statewide poll with these results. Nearly 80% of respondents said the state should take steps to address climate change, and they also strongly supportive of the type of specific provisions that I just went through. Nearly 70% of those polled support requiring developers of new housing in Maryland to use only electric power for heating, cooling, and appliances by 2024. And 75% favor requiring existing large commercial buildings to make needed improvements by 2040 in order to get to net zero emissions. So there's strong support across the state and from voters for this comprehensive legislative climate bill. We're calling on our legislative leaders to make sure it passes, and it passes with plenty of time in the session. Before I turn it over to Mike Tidwell, the CCAN, I want to acknowledge our leaders in the House that are here. Chairman Barbe will be speaking shortly. Vice Chair Stein, Delegate Fraser-Hidalgo, Delegate Love, Delegate Charkoudian, and Delegate Learman all have been leaders in climate. So with that, Mike Tidwell, there he is.
Thank you, Kim. I'm Mike Tidwell, Director of the Chesapeake Climate Action Network and CCAN Action Fund, and we need climate solutions in Maryland because while cleaning up our atmosphere and our air and saving the climate is a lot, clean energy also is good for our economy. And since Senator Penske, I was supposed to introduce Senator Penske, and he's still in session, so I'm going to try to channel him for a second. Senator Paul Penske of Prince George's County has preached that gospel of economic responsibility that comes with clean energy for the full 20 years that I've been an advocate here in Annapolis. Senator Penske is chair of the Education, Health, and Environment Committee, and he is the lead sponsor on the Senate side of the Climate Solutions Now Act, which I believe has 24 co-sponsors. So it's a great bill. It has a lot of momentum. And I'm standing here as a regional advocate. I'm a member of a regional organization, and I will tell you this, that wherever I lobby, whether it's Richmond or the Wilson Building in DC or Capitol Hill or here in Annapolis, it's not enough for advocates like us to have great ideas. It's not enough for advocates like us to be passionate about an issue. We have to have legislative leaders. We advocates, we block and tackle like on a football team, but we need quarterbacks. And that's why I'm so pleased to be here today with Delegate Kumar Larve, who also, for the 20 years I've advocated here has been a leader on these issues, and you'll hear from him in a minute. But I do want to thank Senator Paul Pinsky for his leadership, and hopefully you members of the press will get a chance to interview him at some point today. I do want to say a couple of things. Kumar can confirm this. Paul Pinsky will confirm this. Many of you in the press who've been here for a while will confirm this. Every time a big bill comes up on climate change, there are some in the business community who have legacies of polluting who will tell you we can't do it. We can't do it. It's too expensive. The technology's not right. We need more time. Maybe we never can do it. And things aren't that bad on the climate. And we've greened our annual conference, and they'll give you these small things that they do. They say it over and over again. But in the reality is, we the advocates and the legislators for climate legislation have been right for 20 years. The price of wind and solar goes down, the jobs go up, the economy gets better. So today, when you hear the gas industry and others saying we can't do it, the reality is we can do it. They have been wrong. If you look at their testimony over the years, you'll see they are wrong year after year after year. The momentum's on our side, history is on our side, and we're going to pass these bills. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Josh Kurtz. I'm the Executive Director of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation for Maryland. I'm honored to be here today because we need climate solutions now, and we need it this year. We need climate solutions because we're already feeling the impacts in our communities. We're seeing flooding, we're seeing heat, and we're seeing that in our natural communities too. It's increasing the pollution loads that are flowing to the bay. I'm honored to be here with leaders standing behind me who have for years supported work to improve our environment. And I'm honored to introduce to you the Chairman of the Environment and Transportation Committee, Delegate Kumar Barbek.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me begin by saying we should just keep this simple. The bills are big, they're long, they're complicated, but let's focus on the simple things. Number one, the future is now. Number two, we have to reduce by 60% the carbon emissions of the state of Maryland. Number three, we should treat fossil fuels as the valuable resources they are and keep them in the ground. Number four, we need to make sure that we live in a world very shortly where everybody drives net zero vehicles and electric cars. Obviously, we all here agree with this, and obviously the people of Maryland agree with all of these things, but how do we get this done? You know, I have a lot of great colleagues and leaders up here. You're going to hear from them, but the fact of the matter is we can't do this without your firepower. We need you to push these things through the legislature because there are a million different ways to kill a bill, and usually only one way to pass a bill, and that is through brute force. Do you have the brute force? Yay! Okay, so again, this is a very simple thing. This is cleaning up the environment for all of us, ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, and just one thing I want to say about environmental justice. And this is true in the state of Maryland, it's true throughout the entire world. 75 to 80% of the pollution you inhale comes out of the tailpipe of a vehicle, usually a slow-moving delivery vehicle. The rest of it comes from other sources, but electrification, using less electricity, being more efficient, this is how we're going to solve this problem. We're going to solve it over the next 20 years, and at the end of the day, all of our constituents and all of the people of our state will have more money in their pocket after we get done doing it. Are we ready for this? Yeah! Let's get going. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Josh Tolkien. I'm the director of the Maryland chapter of the Sierra Club. I'm really pleased to be here today with our legislative champions and all of our partners representing the hundreds of thousands of Marylanders that are advocating for climate solutions in Maryland. Climate solutions are win-win. Climate solutions are economic solutions. Climate solutions are health solutions. Electric vehicles have zero emissions, not just greenhouse gases, but smog. That's important when the majority of Marylanders live in counties with unhealthy, unsafe air. So these are climate solutions, they're also public health solutions. When we clean up our buildings, we're reducing not just greenhouse gases, we're reducing all the pollution that comes from burning a fossil fuel in the basement of our homes and our buildings and our commercial areas. That is reducing the risk of an explosion. That is reducing the health impacts that happen from actually burning fossil fuels in our home. I know it's scary to realize something that's been so normalized is actually not safe, but more and more studies are showing that burning fossil fuels in our home is not good for public health. This legislation makes sure that we're putting ourselves on track, on the path to strong, sustainable solutions to deal with our climate, but also to help with our public health and our economy. I'm excited to be able to introduce an amazing youth leader in Maryland, Sophia D. Alonso, the sophomore at University of Maryland College Park, part of the Mary Perk Student Climate Action Coalition. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Josh, for your introduction, and thank you for inviting me to speak here today. We need climate solutions this year because young people have the right to a safe and healthy future. My name is Sophia D. Alonso. I've lived in Maryland my entire life and am now a sophomore at the University of Maryland. I'm pursuing a double degree in political communication and environmental science and policy. Among other campus groups, I'm involved in the Mary Perk Student Climate Action Coalition, or MCAC. We represent a coalition of youth activists from each public university in Maryland, working to enact legislative action against climate change. We wrote and proposed the Future Act, which will be deliberated in this spring's Maryland General Assembly. I am so proud of and amazed by the tireless passion and perseverance of my fellow students organizing around sustainability and environmental justice. As young people, we are anxious that we will not have a future because of our society's persistent reliance on fossil fuels. We are anxious that the coast we love will come underwater, that our wildlife will come extinct, and that our planet won't be the same beautiful experience for our children to come. We are seeing the suffering caused by devastating flooding, forest fires, and droughts across the world. We know that things will only continue to worsen, and we are frustrated by the lack of action and accountability. There are many students and young people, like me, who have already experienced repeated climate disasters. I grew up and reside in Ellicott City, Maryland, a small town west of Baltimore that is predisposed to catastrophic flash flooding events. Our historic Main Street is located in the floodplain of the Tiber and the Patapsco rivers. We've seen 18 major floods in our town's history, but our most recent floods have been uniquely devastating. In 2016, we experienced a once-in-a-thousand-year flood that washed away buildings and took lives. Our streets and floorboards were torn apart, cars were swept down the street, and many businesses could no longer operate. The aftermath was heartbreaking. Residents who had spent decades growing their small businesses were forced to close up shop after a single traumatic night. In 2018, we experienced a second 1,000-year flood. This one even more destructive than the 2016 flood nearly 2 years before. Many more businesses were forced to close their doors, and 5 years later, our town's economy and infrastructure is still rebuilding. I, like many of my local friends and family, still feel a pang in our stomachs when the forecast calls for heavy rain. For every degree that average temperatures in an area increase, the atmosphere carries roughly 4% more water vapor. These severe flash flooding conditions in Ellicott City are only exacerbated by our warming climate and unsustainable development. Without climate action, the beautiful Main Street I call home, the place where I've grown up and made so many memories, may soon cease to exist. Now, more than ever, we are obligated to raise our voices and fight for a livable future. We are at a critical point, and we have the power to decide which course we take. Right now, I should be sitting in my economics class, trying not to fall asleep as my professor explains my terms. Instead, I stand here, urging you to listen to the anxiety of young people and act to preserve our planet. Young people like me are the leaders of the climate movement because an action today hijacks our future tomorrow. I call upon our legislators to ensure that my generation
see Maryland underinvest in their communities and concentrate polluting facilities near their homes. Climate change exacerbates these inequalities. We are so excited about climate legislation that centers on equity, and specifically, additional investments in overburdened communities, training and employment opportunities, and including these communities in key decisions. Now, I am delighted to introduce Robin Lewis, Director of Climate Equity with Interfaith Power and Light, who will talk about climate and environmental justice.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Robin Lewis. Thank you. I'm Robin Lewis from Interfaith Power and Light DFP, and we are urging climate solutions to pass this year because the time is now. I've been a Prince George's County resident for the past 25 years. During those years, I've worked to advocate for environmental justice for the communities who have suffered and been suffering disproportionately from the results of climate catastrophe, the continued building of toxic methane gas infrastructure, unhealthy buildings, toxic fumes from diesel truck traffic, toxic landfills and trash incinerators, among other things. These communities are living in areas where polluters continue to dump toxins, even when we all know what happens to the health of the residents, especially children and those with other health conditions. These communities, our neighbors, deserve and demand to be treated with respect and to have justice. We need a seat at the table so that investments in training, employment, and other opportunities can equitably be directed within the Black and brown communities. So the time is now for Maryland to focus on helping those communities that are sacrificed and underserved but are the most impacted by climate and other environmental harm. So I need your help right now. When I say the time is now, you repeat the time is now. Got it? All right. The time is now.
The time is now.
To stop sacrificing communities for unlimited fossil fuel consumption without any thought to those suffering. The time is now.
The time is now.
To help low-income residents live in healthy, non-toxic, all-electric buildings. The time is now.
The time is now.
To convert to electric vehicles so that residents are not overburdened with diesel and gas fumes every time they walk out of the door. The time is now.
The time is now.
To make sure underserved residents are included at the table of justice when it comes to equitable distribution of reparations. The time is now.
The time is now.
For faith communities to stand up for the least of these when it comes to the environment. We are called by our faith to help to amplify the voices of those who are minimized in our society. The time is now.
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 Let's pass climate solutions because the time
Is now. Yay!
Introduce my colleague, Director of Faithful Advocacy at IPL-DMV, Mr. Jonathan Laycock Nicely.
My name is Jonathan Laycock Nicely. I also work for Interfaith Power and Light. And as Robin said, we need climate solutions this year for the health of our neighbors and our communities. On that note, it is my privilege to introduce Ruth Ann Norton. Ruth Ann Norton is the president and CEO of the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, as well as serving as the chair of the Maryland Lead Poisoning Prevention Commission. as one of the nation's foremost experts on the impact of climate and energy efficiency on our health and the health of our country's housing stock and its residents. She is leading the national movement to align healthy housing and climate measures. Please welcome Rosanna.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Chairman Barbe and Senator Chesapeake, and my delegate Chartunian. I am so glad to be here today on behalf of the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative. We're founded on the principle of addressing the social determinants of health and opportunity and racial equity by creating climate-friendly and healthy housing. We began our work to look at energy efficiency as a measure of health and racial equity in partnership with President Obama and then Vice President Biden in 2009, because we knew after decades of work working on lead poisoning prevention that the thing that was displacing families and driving the high numbers on asthma and missing school and missing work was because of poorly weatherized housing that desperately needed assistance. But what we know today is that by passing climate solutions now, we have an opportunity to lead with our under-resourced community to create reparations through healthy housing, climate solutions that will open up the pathway. This bill will drive better investments, better health, and better opportunities. Our work to decarbonize and create electric solutions, to create healthier housing, to create jobs through energy efficiency is one of the most transformational and tangible ways that we can address health and racial equity in Maryland. We are pleased to be here to support this bill, to ensure its passage, and to work together on its implementation, that we invest in our most under-resourced communities first as a leading aspect of how we build for the future. Thank you, and let's get this done.
Hello, everybody. My name is Victoria Venable. I am with Chesapeake Climate Action Network and Action Fund. I just wanted to close up today by recognizing how much buy-in this agenda really has. Climate Solutions is fully captivating all of our elected officials. If you're an elected official of the General Assembly, can you raise your hand? Today. Delegate Barbe, thank you so much for working so hard on this agenda. Yes, absolutely. And I know we wanted to have Senator Pinsky here today as well. We just heard that he will be getting off the floor probably around 11:45. If you're able to stick around, I know we would love to talk to all of you about what a big day today is and what a big year 2022 has to be for climate solutions. CCAN and I and all the people here today, we support climate solutions in 2022 because we do not have any time to waste. If you are from Maryland, which I'm assuming most of you are, you probably had a wonderful, beautiful 60-degree weather day on Saturday. And then it snowed on Sunday and yesterday. It's not normal. So I think it's pretty clear that we have some across-the-board buy-in here. We know the urgency is here. We need a bold solution. We need support all over the state. So we have lobby nights coming up. We have rallies. We have legislative hearings starting today in person.
Woo!
Woo! We also will be coming up with weekly actions for you all to join with us. We have to keep the pressure on. I know we have the support here, but we need it across both chambers throughout the halls. So if you'd like to get involved, you can go to MarylandClimateAction.com and you can find all that information about what we're doing, how to stay involved with all of these amazing pieces of legislation, and how to make sure that we pass climate solutions this year. Thank you so